Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for connecting again today. In today's Latinx Chats interview, I'm going to interview Pamela Vallero, who is a attorney within, like a trial attorney within the labor laws. And so she's going to be sharing her story with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and include her on here so we can get this. I'm really excited to share her story with you all and for us to all learn about all this. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. This is like really
Good.
close to my face.
Good to see you.
You too.
I'm so excited for this live today and for you to share all your awesome knowledge with all of us.
Yes. I'm very excited as well.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Pamela, again for jumping on board and wanting to share your story and all that you do. So, if you don't mind, we'll just kind of dive into it and share a little bit of who you are,
Yeah.
and then go from there. Sound good?
Okay.
Awesome. Well, who is Pamela? Where are you from? Your family? All that.
I feel like this is like such I don't like a loaded question for me specifically because I'm like a child of everywhere. So I was born in New York City to Colombian parents. And when I was very young, my parents decided to return to Colombia. So my sister and me, and then my parents all returned to Colombia, and I stayed there until I was a teenager. And then when I was a teenager, I came back to the US. Went to undergrad in Georgia. Then after that, I'm like, I'm not feeling like what I'm doing at the moment. I'm like in my early 20s. So I decided to take a sabbatical and I moved to Seoul, South Korea. And then, and then there I spent almost 5 years there. And during that time, took the LSAT, applied to law school, and then came to San Diego, which is now where I live with my husband and my beautiful daughter and my beautiful dog. And, now it's my home.
Oh my God. Thank you everyone for connecting. Honestly, Pamela, you're awesome. I didn't know that you were out in Korea for that time. And
yeah, so long. I was there for so long. I told my parents it was supposed to be 1 year. And then it turned into, I'm going to renew my contract. I'm going to renew my contract. And then I just stayed there for such a long time. And just, I love it. I love it. I always considered like, you have like the formative years, like elementary school, whatever. And then you have your like adult formative years, which is like your 20s. And I spent my adult formative years in Korea. And so I have like a lot of things that I take from the Korean culture that are now part of like my everyday life and like who I am as like an adult, which I love, I love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And why don't we just kind of dive into a little bit more about first how it was for you kind of being a Latina, right? And tapping into kind of all these different places of the world and experiencing different cultures and kind of having that journey. What was that for you?
I'm sorry?
What was that for you? Like just kind of being all...
I had when I came back to the US, so, in Colombia, we took English classes, but we really, once you come here, you realize you speak no English. So my sister and I went to a school where they decided that the best thing that could be done to push us to learn English quickly was to separate us. So we wouldn't be like each other's crutch. And so what they did was they put my sister in like ESL classes in the morning, and then they would send me in the afternoon. We went to a school that we were the only non-English speakers, and so they had to bus us to um, to another district where they had an ESL program. And
Wow.
so we basically, I think it took me about 6 months to get out of the ESL program and into like the regular classroom. But that's because we were basically like, you either sank or you swam or you sank, basically. And so that part was hard, just like, coming from Medellin, where I grew up, surrounded by family, to just like being like basically like my sister and I just like trying to figure it out.
Right.
Then Georgia, I mean, I love Georgia. My parents still live there. Most of my family on my mom's side still lives there, but we're actually going there in like about 2 weeks to celebrate my daughter's first birthday.
Aww.
And Georgia is a city that holds like a very special place in my heart, because it has allowed my family to basically live the American dream. And so my parents, they bought their first house there. My cousins and my aunts now live there, and everybody's doing, well for people that came here like late in life, And so, and that's where I went to undergrad, and just love Georgia. I think that, being Latina, I come from a very strong mom. And so, I'm just going to do whatever needs to be done to get the job done. So, if I need to study, the dictionary and learn 10 new words and how to use them in sentences every day, so I can learn the new, a language, so I can assimilate to, the country that is going to be my home, like that's what I'll do.
Right.
And then I would say that being Latina in Korea was great. Not many of us there, but I think that being Latina, it allowed me to really like live in the moment there. Why? Because Korean culture is very family, it's like family
Oriented?
Oriented, or family, and so focused. And so what happened was I was able to go there and make friends, and then their families would kind of like take me in.
Yeah.
I have a woman and her husband and her family. I used to tutor her kids. Her kids are now like college age, which is so crazy. But I call her like my Korea mom, because I was able to go in and tutor her children, and she just took me in. And it's, and even though she's not Korean and her family's not Korean, it was the Korean mentality, because they were living there. They were trying to get their kids to learn like how like Korean people were. And I had been there for a while, teaching Korean kids on an everyday basis, like, because they go to school like every day.
Yeah.
And so it just, I loved Korea. I always tell my husband that I want to take my daughter there, because it's just such a special place to me. And now that I'm here in San Diego, I mean, again, not a lot of Colombians here.
You're right.
But but being Latina in a border town is just such a blessing. It has allowed me to help a lot of people, in the Latino community, by being able to speak to them in their language. Something that not a lot of attorneys, like trial attorneys like I am, not a lot of Spanish-speaking trial attorneys that do what I do, which is, represent employees against their bosses, basically.
Yeah. No, honestly, thank you so much for sharing all that. First off, I was like just nodding throughout a lot of things that you mentioned, because I can definitely relate in the sense of, well, it was so funny when we kind of came upon each other and reached out and whatnot, and then figured that we both, that I also lived in Georgia, in Atlanta,
Yeah.
at a given point. And we can relate to that and how I'm
Yeah.
also going to Georgia Southern University,
My
where you
dog.
graduated from. And so it's just crazy how there's so much similarities that we have, and I can essentially relate to. I'm also now in San Diego, living here. I'm a San Diego native, and just really being able to kind of really, in that sense of being in this border town, you can really tap into these two worlds, is what I call it,
Yeah.
right? And you're able to essentially have still our Latinidad and still be able to kind of showcase it and own it and embrace it and be who we are and what we're all
Yeah.
about, regardless of where we're coming from, right? Whether you're Colombian, whether you're Honduran, whether you're wherever it is that you may be, we're all Latinos at the end of the day. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's so awesome that we have, for example, Mexico so close that you're able to essentially, for example, our language, we can definitely
I am so
embrace
sorry.
that here.
Hey, it's my dog.
No, you're good. So I really love that. And honestly, when I was in Atlanta, I was able to work for the Mexican consulate, which I think I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
But honestly, the type of work that you do, Pamela, honestly, is so, so crucial to so many of our folks that
Thank you.
don't always know like how to go about the process. The legal process, even in and of itself, for us is so daunting at times and so draining and so sometimes frustrating and just overwhelming overall. And the fact that you are making such a difference, and you can possibly share like some of the experiences that you've been able to have out here and what impacts you've had while you've been here in San Diego as a
Yeah.
trial attorney, it really makes a difference, honestly. And so many people can benefit from this, and understanding that with the language and that language barrier and not having that, it's so crucial.
You know, it's so nice to hear you say that because um, a lot of people don't understand that it's, they're like, well, you're not advocating for your clients in Spanish. So, like, you know, what can you do that somebody else cannot do and allow for like lawyers to provide like legal services? I always tell them that it's not so much a language, like the language ability. So being able to speak to your clients in their language is definitely a plus. But with me also comes the fact that even though I was born here, I didn't grow up here. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to like immigrate into the US. So I understand, I come from a family where, my parents had like, I think at one point my mom had like 4 jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
um, like my mom has like done every job under
Yeah.
under the sun for real. But I'm able to relate to my clients on a more personal level. I'm able to talk to them um, and really know where they're coming from. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I'll tell you about a case that I had. My dog. Come here. I'm so sorry, everybody.
You're fine.
Okay, so basically, I think it must have been now 3 years ago, where my firm, so one of my colleagues in my firm and I represented um, a janitor who worked at one of the really high rises, like really tall buildings downtown. I think it had
In
like
San
I
Diego,
think
right?
she had to I'm sorry, what did you say?
In San Diego?
In San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
downtown San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the really tall buildings in downtown San Diego, and basically she had been working there for she had been working there for a very long time. She had been working there for about 10 years. Stellar performance, stellar reviews. Everyone loved her. She had basically done the cleaning from the time that the building was being constructed. So they would finish one floor, and she would go in and do all the cleaning, right? So this lady was like part of the the making of this building from like its inception. And so she's there, and she has like a shoulder injury on the job. She's ringing a mop. We all know people that have gotten injured that way. And she starts using her sick leave and go to the doctor. And basically what starts happening is she starts getting written up for very ridiculous things. For example, she's a great cook. And so she used to make burritos and bring to share. And they wrote her up for catering.
Oh, wow.
Then they wrote her up for allegedly sharing bonus information, which in California, you can't do that. You can't retaliate against somebody for sharing wage information. That's against the labor code. But they wrote her up for that. And so then you had all these things, and so she gets about 4 write-ups in a span of 3 months or 4 months, and then gets terminated.
Wow.
They didn't even let this sweet grandma, right? They didn't even let her go in and get her personal belongings. They treated her like a criminal. And so she came to us, and like I said, my colleague Josh Pang and I did the trial, and we were able to. So they had offered $25,000. That's the defense. That was the defense offer before trial. They said we're not paying anything else, and we were able to get her around approximately $1.1 million.
Wow.
And so, this is not so much for to kind of say, oh, I'm this great trial attorney, but to say that my work, what I do, and why I do what I do is to help people like this client have a voice against these corporations that don't take care of their most important assets, which is like their employees. They need the employees that work behind the curtains and everything. They need to protect those employees, and we see corporations day in and day out take advantage of the fact that a lot of their employees, like Maria, don't speak English, don't know the rules. They're over here signing waivers, signing agreements to arbitrate their cases instead of taking them to juries made up of their peers, because they don't speak the language. And so that's where I come in. That's when I'm able to really talk and represent my clients on a much more personal level. Because like with Maria, I always tell her, I'm like, every time that I did anything for her, it was like I was fighting like for my mom and like for all the ladies, that come here and are working so hard. So, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Honestly, I think that when you have such a big passion like that and you see the need and the impact that it has, it just goes beyond kind of that, what I call just that price tag that you essentially receive from this service. It's more kind of like you're making a difference in someone's life, and I think that goes beyond, of course, I mean, this is your career, right? And of course you want to make an income, and obviously that's important too, but at the same time, that I feel like the purpose behind it and the impact that it has sometimes outweighs truly that kind of whole side of seeing it more on the like the income side of it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, I always tell everyone that you have to love what you do. You
Mm-hmm.
can't, go through life just clocking in, clocking out. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be something that moves you. And so at the end of the day, you want to have a career that allows you to wake up every day and see, okay, and be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing what I was put on this world to do? Am I
Mm-hmm.
doing what makes me happy, what moves me? And I can say, just without hesitation, that this is definitely where I needed to be all along. It took me a little longer. You'll meet that a lot of attorneys go from undergrad straight into law school, but I had like a whole of like two careers before I became a lawyer, and so it took me a little longer to get here. But I am doing the exact work that I want to do, and like you said, I'm trying to change. It's gonna sound really corny, but I'm changing the community one corporation, one business at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so impactful, and that's so awesome that we have people like you that are really there for our people and that are doing the right things to, again, make these kinds of impacts. Because like you said, it could be our own like family members that are in these situations, and seeing it that way, it's kind of like, this is our people and this is their lives that are being impacted, and what could we do? And essentially that was also my take when I was in the consulate, really seeing all the different discriminations and different situations that a lot of our folks go through
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes so frustrating and so at the same time like empowering to know, okay, I have somewhat of a chance to be able to have an impact and help them in one way or
Yeah.
another. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, and keep doing what you're doing. I really feel like, again, there's so many folks that need to find people like yourself that truly have that passion and not necessarily are going to possibly fraud their clients, or not necessarily put like their interest um, in like as an objective, right? Because I've also known in so many other cases, not in the labor side of it, but more on the immigration side of things, and how that's also kind of an issue in terms of so many folks kind of having issues with having lawyers or attorneys not possibly pulling through and
Mm-hmm.
going from one to the other. And so also kind of changing that perspective in terms of knowing, okay, Pamela offers this service. She is an expert. She is a professional within the attorney world and the legal side of things. So
Yeah.
essentially, I can trust her, right? And this type of process, and therefore, I feel like that's kind of what our folks also look for, obviously, and
Yeah.
everyone. I feel like they
Yeah.
look for that type of treatment and that type of comfort.
And I think that it's also important to say that, so the way that I approach like practicing law in San Diego is,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be, yes, known, like if you think I'm having like I have a work issue or conflict with my employer, um I want you to immediately think of me, right? Like that's everyone's, I think every single attorney's objective or mindset is, I want you to be like synonymous with employment law, right? My name.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I want to create or be a link or a bridge from the community to other Latino attorneys that specialize in other areas. So, I spent a lot of time creating a network of Latino attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So then, if, let's say, for example, you come to me and you say, hey, Pamela, I need, I got into a car accident. Like, immediately say, okay, I know exactly who I'm going to send you to. And it
Mm-hmm.
can be somebody who is going to, at the end of the day, be able to represent you and give you counsel in your own language. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
like my main objective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's awesome. I feel like so many people, like I said, can benefit from that and knowing that, they can relate to me. They can understand my language. They can essentially not feel like, oh my God, how am I going to communicate with them? Or possibly like give them all this context. It's kind of like a given in a sense when you are able to work with someone that could potentially already understand where you're coming from and not necessarily have to explain yourself, aside from already what you're going and dealing with. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And so why don't we kind of talk a little bit about how you started
Okay.
this whole process of La Defensora del Trabajo? Like, how did this whole thing start for you? How did
Okay.
you spark this whole idea?
Okay, so basically, so like I said, so I went to law school. When I graduated, I went to the East Coast, worked there for a year, came back, because I was engaged to my now husband. So I came back,
Nice.
and did some family law for like a brief period of time. It was not for me.
Mm.
I mean, I applaud those lawyers that are able to do family law. It's just not for me. Not
Mm-hmm.
just not in my in like my set of skills. Like to, it takes a special type of attorney to deal with those cases. And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually went to dinner. I think it was dinner with two of like my really good friends. Um, one of them is an employment attorney, and he told me about the firm where I work now, that they were hiring, and told me that he believed it would be a great fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, I'm incredibly grateful to him for bringing me to the employment law, you know, side of the law, basically, and this area that just fits so well with who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have been at my firm now for about, I'm gonna say, about 5.5 years, I think.
Nice.
2017. Yeah. And so no, I 4.5 years. And so basically I saw that there was a like
A
like
need?
a need. If there wasn't anyone really doing employment law geared to Spanish speaking, like Spanish speaking people,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish speaking communities. I know for sure that there are other attorneys, employment law attorneys who speak Spanish and who are in San Diego County, but I do not think that they're very active on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I saw lots of people doing like the criminal defense, like bankruptcy, PI, lots of PI lawyers who are super active on social media. And so I basically figured there's this need. It's right, what I do. I am able to speak about these subjects in Spanish, no problem, answer questions, and so that's where La Defensora del Trabajador came. I actually did like polling on the name, like I have like La Defensora del Empleado, like all types of like names,
Yeah.
but La Defensora del Trabajador like really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my husband saying, "That's a mouthful. Like, I don't think that's really gonna work." And then I would translate it to English, and he's like, "Oh no, like, you're over here." There are people that have like really catchy, handles in English, and so he's like, you need something extremely catchy. And then so I was trying to get something that worked in both languages, and it was just not working. And so what I did was I told him, I'm just going to focus on who I want my audience to be. And so that's where La Defensora del Trabajador came from. And it's like my baby. So I have been taking a brief hiatus because I'm actually in trial mode right now, and I've been for about like 2 months. I'm going to trial in the first week of November, and it's a pretty big trial, and so I've been prepping. So I haven't been doing my Lunes de Leyes or Legal Mondays through Instagram, but I'm hoping that I can, resume once I'm done with trial. But it is a lot it's the content creation, all the graphics, like, for me, I was doing IGTVs, and so you have to do and I did a whole film, I guess, day of filming reels.
Yeah.
And that's like almost like a job on itself. And then at first, so I had all of, like, the first one, I remember I filmed it, and I was like, there's no way I can put this out. Like, there's no way. People are like, this is so not me. But then, and so what I did was I just started filming things that I thought would be more aligned with who I am, because I can't try to like be somebody that I'm not on like my social media. It's just not,
And I feel like people would catch it too.
Yeah. I mean, and all my friends would be like, what are you doing? I just,
Pamela, ¿qué pasa?
Yeah, I can't be like learning TikTok dances. Like, it's just not gonna happen, And so, with the Lunes de Leyes, I hope to resume that when I'm done with this trial.
Sure.
But definitely, like, La Defensora del Trabajador is my baby. It's like my other baby. I have, now I have like 3 babies. And so I hope to have the time to really get it to where I want it to be.
Yeah. And in terms of, for example, like, could you
Sorry. My dog. This is my other baby, and he won't go. So he won't go and be with my husband. And he wants to be in here, but then he's like so disruptive. Come here. God. 1 second, please.
No, you're good. This is part of it all.
Wow.
This is part of it, Pamela. No worries.
Wow. This is,
So people can see we don't really, we do it kind of on the go, in the fly, we don't practice for this.
It's funny that you say that, because my daughter is the best sleeper. Like, she's just the best sleeper. She has been really good. We sleep trained, which I know a lot of people are gonna watch this and be like, oh my gosh, she sleep trains. But that has allowed me to basically, so I do my job like during the day, my job that pays me, and then I come home and I kind of put on like my mommy mode, and then once she goes to sleep by 7:30 every day, and somehow, for some reason today, like, she did not want to go to sleep.
Aww.
She's like, I want to be part of this life that you're doing, Mom. And so I'm like,
no problem.
Okay, go to sleep. Like, what's happening? And she just wouldn't go to sleep. So it's, it's the whole family wants to make a cameo.
Aw. And so maybe, Pamela, we can talk a little bit about for folks and for people that kind of want to know if they were to be in a situation where at their current job they may be facing maybe some struggles or some issues that they can possibly think it's against the law, like if they're not giving them their break hours, if they're not allowing them to take vacation. Things like this are pretty common, right? And for
Yeah.
folks that may be wondering, like, is this illegal? Is this okay? Like, if they're in that situation, kind of like what would be your plan of attack for those folks? Like, what would be kind of their next steps in terms of like,
So,
how do I ask for help, you know?
so I always say this in every single one of my videos. Do not live with like the doubt, right? Like I've represented people that have gone decades
Mm-hmm.
working for businesses that are violating their rights on almost a daily basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I and most um, most employment law attorneys, myself included, we work on what it's called a contingency fee basis. And so we don't charge you unless we are able to recover, um, you know, recover damages for you, right? Recover some, money for you to
Right.
compensate you. And so I always pick up the phone.
Mm.
So I always pick up the phone. So my advice to anybody who's going through a situation at work that it's conflicting with they're experiencing conflict with their employer, what I would say to those people is pick up the phone and call somebody. Like, it doesn't have to be me. You can call me. I always pick up, but call a lawyer that will take the 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, to listen to your situation and tell you whether you have a case or don't have a case. I talk to lots of people on a daily basis. And if you even look me up on like Avo or whatever, a lot of my reviews are from people that never retained me. They only consulted.
Mm.
But because of my consultation or my free consultation, basically, they were able to then have the tools to go into that meeting with HR, to go talk to their boss, like, hey, you know what? Like, actually, I have a right. I'm entitled to this, this, and this, and that. And then when the employers see that they actually know what they're talking about, then the employers, remedy the situation in many cases. And in many cases, they don't. And then those people just call me back and say, hey, they didn't do anything. And then I say, okay, well, when can you come in? I'll sign you up and let's go.
Yeah.
That's, it's just one more employer that I need to basically teach them how they have to treat their people.
And what are some examples, like some common examples that could possibly be a reason for employers to possibly be not following the law? Like, what are some of the common ones that
Like,
people
for
go
example, we do so you know how like a lot of there's like OSHA and like like the state has a lot of departments, like health department, that go in. Let's say, for example, somebody talks to one of those departments during an inspection, and basically is a whistleblower against
right
the
that agency?
employer, and we see a lot of whistleblower retaliation. Sometimes the employee doesn't even blow the whistle, but the employer perceives or believes that they blew the whistle and then retaliate anyway. A lot of times we have witness to a retaliation. So a lot of people will have their case, and then say, for example, you and I are coworkers, and I'm being like sexually harassed. And then I sue, and then I ask you, hey, you saw X, Y, and Z on this day. Can you just like, do a declaration for me? We see a lot of those people then being the next victim of retaliation and getting fired because they're helping the enemy. We see now with COVID, we have seen a lot of discrimination and retaliation against, pregnant moms.
Wow.
A lot of pregnancy discrimination has come up as a result of COVID. It's really insane because a lot of, like, for example, we had a disability discrimination case where her accommodation the reasonable accommodation was for her to work remotely for a set period of time. And the employer was like, no, can't accommodate, remote, working remotely. That's not going to happen.
Wow.
Only to have to do it because of COVID, like 6 months later. And then not only was she working remotely, but the entire company had to go remotely. And so it's
what a
insane.
lesson.
Exactly. And so, so you see all these cases where companies like refuse to accommodate, disabilities. A lot of the disabilities, you can't see them. So, so they're like, well, you like, why, like, what do you need this? Employers are obligated under the law to engage in this like interactive process where you're like, you request the accommodation and then they tell you, okay, well, your doctor's note is not clear enough, like we need like a follow-up note. They're supposed to engage in this thing. We see a lot of cases where the employers just deny the accommodation and fail to engage in any type of like back and forth with the employee. Like all types of things. I would say that, we see with Latino workers a lot of wage and hour issues where, like you said, they're not being given their lunch breaks, they're not being paid overtime. And when you actually calculate their hours that they're working, they're not even getting paid minimum wage because, the calculations are all messed up. And so you have to be very on top of your wage statements. Look at the records. Are they compensating you for all the time that you're putting in? Are they giving you uninterrupted meal breaks? Or are they, are you about to like take a bite out of your sandwich and they're saying, hey, get up, like we have somebody else that you need to like help, or, just what are you doing there? You need to be working. So all of these things, my advice is if you are experiencing something and you think something is wrong, take the time, call an attorney, and we'll, set you right, and then let you know what if you have a case and if you don't have a case.
And I think it's also important to note, which I'm sure you can back me up on this, but regardless of your legal status here in the States or well, essentially here in the States, it does, you still have rights. So
yes,
I think that's important to note.
Yes. So basically what we see a lot with like members of the Latinx community is that they're afraid to complain because of their immigration status, and the civil courts don't really look at the immigration status. It has no relevance in any of these cases. You're still entitled to being paid what you need to be paid. We're also seeing a lot of labor trafficking cases with members of the Latinx community. So for example, we had a case where I had about 13 plaintiffs and for one employer, and they
Wow.
were making them work. Like they would go in at like on a Wednesday at 4, and then they would leave on a Saturday all day. Like they would work the
Nonstop.
entire time. What happened was they would say, the employer said, oh no, they're only working until 9, and then at 9 they go into their rooms and then they sleep. What they had failed to say was that in their rooms there were bells from the patients, and so anytime like somebody needed help, they would ring these bells and they would set off the bells in their rooms, so they were
Wow.
always on call.
Hmm.
And so that had to be compensated, and they were, they failed to compensate them for all of that time. And so, we were able um, bring a labor trafficking cause of action in that case and
Wow.
really help those ladies. I mean, and some of them have been working there, like I said, for decades. And it's so sad that they felt like they couldn't ask for help because they didn't have, papers.
Yeah, 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 and I think that's just again very crucial for folks to know, right? That there is this support regardless of your legal status. There's definitely that support that's there. So for just us to share and spread the word that there are folks that are willing to help you and provide you with these services in your own language, especially people here in the San Diego region. And I'm sure Latinx folks around the US, I'm sure have their services as well. There's so many of us. So I'm sure there's folks that if they reach out to you, for example, like you can definitely connect them to other folks that you
Yeah,
have within your
yeah,
network.
definitely. And just so the listeners know, I've taken cases, you know, in San Francisco and all the way
Mm.
down. So,
Oh, that's
um,
awesome.
yeah, Arizona. So if, just always ask. And if I can't do it, I'll connect you to someone who can help you.
That's so good to know, Pamela, because I didn't know if you were just more on the regional side of maybe like SoCal area and just this area, or if you serviced like all
So,
California and like or like neighboring states.
so I specialize in like San Diego, like this is where I live. So,
Yeah.
most of our cases are here in San Diego, but we do take cases in Orange County, LA. And like I said, I've had cases up in the San Francisco area as well.
Oh,
Like
awesome.
Ventura County, like just all over, like Kern County, like all
Oh,
these
good to
places,
know.
that you just like, you go and it's I have a lot of cases now that are in like El Centro,
Mm.
um, a lot of like agricultural cases.
Oh,
And
yeah. Those are
so,
big.
yeah. And so we try to help you. Like I said, if like I can't help you, my firm can't help you, then we will
Mhm.
definitely connect you to somebody who can, give you a hand for sure.
Yeah, that's great to know. That's awesome. If only we can replicate people like you in like all these different areas, that would be so
Thank you.
awesome. But
I
there's so much
try.
that you could do.
I try, and this work is just like I said, earlier in the live, like it's so dear to my heart, and I really see myself as giving back to the community that has given, so much to my family and to me. And so you just one client at a time, one case at a time, and
Mhm.
that has like a domino effect. And so, you win those big cases like the one that I was sharing about earlier in the chat, and then people hear your name, and once you jump on a case, employers get, are real quick to change their ways and to like
Yeah.
try to basically settle cases and to remedy like their um, what they've been doing. And so it's really good because that's essentially what I want, is to
Yeah.
change the misconduct.
hmm And of course, for them to stay compliant, right, with laws and everything. And at the end of the day, these are people that are working for you, you know? So why not take care of them? They're
Yeah.
doing the work, they're doing all the hard stuff. So why not have them be happy where they're working? So that's
And you
awesome
know, I
again.
see, it's so funny because I see that a lot of people are very hesitant to speak up if
hmm
they work for a big, like a big company, a big
Oh,
employer.
yeah.
And they're like, oh, like they'll come to me and be like, Pamela, like they have the best lawyers. They have like an army of lawyers. Like, are we gonna
Like
be
there's
able
no
to beat
chance.
them? There's no chance. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna come after me. And I've seen it. Like, I go up against, the like mid-size companies all the way to the biggest employer in the US, the federal government. So, at the end
hmm
of the day, if you are being retaliated against, harassed, discriminated against, you are entitled to have your situation be heard, and you're entitled to damages, and that's
hmm
my job, is to make those companies pay.
hmm
That's just the civil system.
Yes, yes, girl, yes. Well, we're almost to the end of our live today, and I always love to implement this really like fun way to get to know you.
Okay.
As a Latina, right? Like
Okay.
I'm sure there's so many things that we could relate. And so I thought, why don't we play this game called This or That? And then
Okay.
towards the end, once before we close off, I'll tag your account on here for folks to reach out to you if need be,
Okay.
and they can connect with you, and whether it's consultations, whether it's different cases, or just wanting to hear someone's advice in terms of the legal side of things, they know they can reach out to Pamela. You have all these expertise, and I'm sure you're willing to help everyone that
I
has.
am. Just call, and like I
Yeah,
said, if I don't know it, I'll connect you to somebody who can.
yeah, yeah,
I'll
and
I'll
that's
route you.
that's the power of us Latinos. I feel
Yeah.
like we always bring everyone kind of in, and we find ways to help each other out. If not, te paso a tal, or like, you know what I mean? So we
Yeah,
find ways to
yeah,
help each
no,
other
for
out.
sure. That it's like that network, you just
Right.
want to create a network that can just reach and help like entire communities. Like, you need a PI attorney, you need a bankruptcy attorney, like Wilson States, like everything. Like, I know people, and so
Right.
don't just be looking on, like, don't go with like your Google or whatever. Like, you want to go with people that are going to have your best interest at heart.
Right.
And I'm not gonna refer you to somebody that I don't think is gonna give like your case like their all. And so, like, that's the
hmm
people that I keep in my network. That's the people that I send cases to. Those are individuals that I know, that I trust with like my own case, and like my own, like, if like my mom got into a car accident, like I would send her to that person, and so
Yeah.
that's like the same person that I would refer to you or anybody else who calls me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of folks, I hope, take that to heart and really do, if
Yeah.
they find themselves, hopefully not, but if they were to find themselves in such situation, that they know, okay, Pamela, like that's my go-to, and I can definitely you can be that resource, and also be kind of that guide, and also mentor, and even be that representative if it were to be that it's more on a trial basis, and all that stuff,
Yeah.
if
I
that were
mean,
to be the
even
case.
like you said that you'll share my profile, but
Yeah.
I'm huge in like mentoring other Latinas who want to become lawyers, or that are entering, that are in law school, or even
Oh,
like high
nice.
school or college. Um, if you have any questions or anything like that, like, reach out. Like, I'm here to mentor and to bring more Latinas into the practice of law, because
Yeah.
that's like, that's very dear to my heart. my baby sister is actually at the University of Florida right now, doing her undergrad, and she plans to go to law school. And so, I'm always there, like answering questions, telling her like what to join and what to do. And, that's not something that I would just do for her. I'll do for anybody who like reaches out and wants to like kind of, get some mentorship for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, I'm sure, hopefully, folks, once they see the live and whatnot, if they are interested, anyone that's willing to kind of tap into your expertise and your experience, they can definitely reach out in terms of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's dive into this little game here, and then
Okay.
we'll kind of
Am I
dive
supposed
to
to,
it.
are we pointing or what are we doing?
No. I'm just gonna share. I'm gonna give you two options,
Okay.
and you're gonna choose from one or the other.
Okay, perfect.
So, Pamela, what does Pamela prefer? Do you prefer podcasts or do you prefer audiobooks?
Oh, podcast. Podcast
Podcasts.
for sure. Right now, can I share a little bit about
Yeah.
I know we have like 4 minutes, but I am listening to this Money Girl podcast. Oh, it's so good.
Nice.
I love like financial podcasts, like, anything like with advice on like what to invest, like where to invest, how to pay like debt off, like, tips for like first time home buyers, like if you're going to get a car, like the whole thing. Like, today I think I listened to an episode on like, opening an account for your kid, and I learned about like all types of like college funds and everything for like my daughter. So
Nice.
so podcast for sure.
Awesome. All right, this might be a tough one, but
Okay.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. So, Pamela, do you prefer the West Coast or the East Coast?
Oh no. Oh, my husband is gonna kill me, but I'm East Coast all day.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, because my mom is there, my sisters are there, my cousins, like my abuelita's there,
Yeah.
And I love San Diego. I love living here. It's such like a unique place. But I'm gonna say just East Coast, because like I'm a family person, and that's like where my family is.
Yeah.
So
I hear you.
I miss it. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Trick question.
Yeah, I know. one last one, because I know it's almost time, but and I don't want the live to be deleted, but what, in terms of like the cases that you work on or that you've dealt with, do you prefer working on some that are against like big corporate or smaller I guess businesses? Like, what's been kind of like your go-to? Like, what would you, if you had to choose between a case of a corporate or a small business? Kind of, I know there's just so much between that, but like,
but I would say that I like cases that are where the like the hurt, like the harm has been like going on, and so it's that through that case I'm able to change the company policies. I don't care if it's a small business owner or if it's the US government. I'm going to go and I'm going to try to use that case to change like the corporate approach what they've been doing, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Pamela. I had such a good time.
Thank you for having me here.
Of course. Thank you for sharing your story, for sharing all your knowledge, and I hope that folks are inspired to reach out, and also to utilize you as a kind of as a network and as a reference too, and not be scared to ask for help.
No, please do. Like I said, I'm always here. I'll always answer the phone. So if you have a doubt, like just don't live with it. call
Yeah.
somebody that can, that can give you some clarity.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining us and sticking
Thank you,
all the
everybody.
way along. Thank you so much, Pamela. Take care.
Thanks.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.